The first time Reuben Holloway understood fear, it didn't come from a shout or a gunshot. It came from the way his grandfather looked at the sky, still, tight jaw, watching clouds like they could fall with teeth. Reuben was 12, barefoot, in the cotton rows, July heat melting down the back of his neck. His job was to shake the worms off the leaves. His grandfather's job, that day, was cleaning a rifle that hadn't been fired since Europe. The metal glinted in the sunlight, smelled like gun oil, salt, and something older, something passed down. Reuben asked him once why he kept it. His grandfather said, "Ain't for hunting, it's for remembering." 3 days later, a white sheriff's car rolled slow by the property, not looking for anybody, just looking. That was how it always was. The Holloways had lived on that land since before land meant anything to black folks around there. But no matter how long you stay, you're always just renting your right to breathe. This was Mississippi, 1969, where trees still remembered strange fruit, where even the dogs knew who not to bark at. Reuben's older brother, David, was 17. He had a laugh that could make you forget the heat, even for a second. Girls liked him. White girls, too. He didn't do anything with them, never tried, but sometimes he looked and sometimes they looked back. One afternoon, walking home from the general store, David made the mistake of laughing too loud. Two white girls were coming out with their father and uncle. David didn't even notice them at first. He was laughing at something Reuben had said. Then came the words, "What's funny, boy?" David froze. Reuben stopped breathing. The men didn't shout again. They didn't need to. They dragged David off the road like he was trash blowing across their lawn. Reuben couldn't move. He just watched from behind a tree, his knees shaking like they might run without him. Minutes passed. Or maybe it was a year. David came back, limping, bleeding from the mouth, shirt torn and dark with something red. He didn't say a word. Nobody called the police. That night, their mother took that shirt out behind the barn. Didn't wash it. Didn't cry. She poured lighter fluid on it and lit a match. Reuben stood there in the dark, watching it burn. The flame danced in her eyes, but her face never moved. She said one thing, just one. "Don't ever forget what they did, and don't ever give them more reason." Reuben didn't sleep that night. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling fan, listening for footsteps that never came. That was the night he stopped being a boy, right there, between the cotton rows and the burning cloth. Innocence slipped out of him like sweat. You don't lose it all at once. It comes apart in pieces, the sound of laughter turning to silence, the weight of a stare that tells you you don't belong, the way your family looks at you and doesn't say what they're thinking, because they can't afford the risk of saying anything. And all. This is Injustice Browning, and I'm Mark Joie. If this story already feels too familiar, if it makes your stomach twist like you've seen this play out before, it's because some truths in this country refuse to stay buried. So take a moment, subscribe to the channel, drop your thoughts in the comments, because silence never saved us, and remembering, that's where it begins. That summer, Reuben learned the rules, not the ones in the books, the real ones. Don't walk too proud, don't laugh too loud, and never think being right will keep you safe. His grandfather never fired that rifle, not once, but he kept it close, because in a town like that, survival wasn't about power. It was about preparation. By the time Reuben turned 16, the world was changing, or so they said. Cities up north were marching, colleges were protesting. On television, black men held signs and stood their ground. On paper, laws were passing, but in Reuben's town, the dirt didn't shift an inch. The air still carried the same weight, and freedom still cost more than anyone he knew could afford. They got a new pastor that spring. Young man, bold voice, smooth suits. He'd come from Birmingham. Said he'd marched with King before the bullets flew. Folks whispered about him, eyes cautious, hearts hopeful. Reuben liked him. There was something different about the way he spoke, not just about heaven and hell, but right here, this life, this dirt, this suffering. He'd say, "We don't wait for the afterlife to claim our worth." Reuben believed him. So when the pastor started printing flyers about a prayer walk down Main Street, Reuben helped, quietly, late nights, slipping pieces of paper under car windshields, behind sugar bags at the general store, inside him books at the church. He didn't tell his father. The march never happened. 5 nights later, Reuben woke to the sound of glass shattering and the sky glowing red where it shouldn't have. The pastor's church was on fire. Flames snapped like whips. devouring the roof, lighting up the faces of white men across the street, who watched from their trucks. Nobody stopped them. Nobody tried. Reuben ran out barefoot. But by the time he got there, it was ash. The cross had collapsed. The next morning, nobody said a word. The sheriff called it accidental. The mayor said, tragic loss. The white churches didn't mention it. The black churches just bowed their heads and sang quieter. Reuben watched the pastor walk through the rubble. His suit was still pressed, but something in him had wrinkled. He didn't look anyone in the eye, not even Reuben. He didn't preach that Sunday or the next. By summer, he was gone, and just like that, hope dried up and blew away, like cotton caught in the wind. Reuben asked his father why no one fought back, why they didn't scream or march or even mourn out loud. His father didn't look up, just kept sanding down a piece of oak for a chair that wasn't ever gonna sell. You think these people forgot what they did to John Hardy's boy? He said. You think they don't remember the rope, the fire? They remember just fine. Reuben stood there, fist clenched, shaking. We got dignity, he snapped. We got the right. His father cut him off with a look that had more pain than anger. Keep your mouth down, boy. Our blood ain't built for freedom out loud. That hit Reuben in a place deeper than bone, deeper than anger. It felt like surrender, but learned, practiced, passed down like a family recipe. The silence in the town wasn't just fear. It was history. It was memory. It was grief that had stopped asking for justice and started settling for survival. Reuben stopped passing out flyers after that, stopped speaking up, stopped trusting in firebrands and marches, because he saw what happened when people dreamed too loud. He carried that image with him, the pastor, standing in ashes, his mouth shut, not praying, not preaching, just breathing carefully. This is Injustice Browning. I'm Mark Joie, and if you're still here, it's because you've seen it too. That moment when a man stops believing his voice matters, when the fear gets too thick and the fire burns too close. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe if you believe these stories need to be remembered, because some towns built their peace on black silence, and they'll do anything to keep it quiet. Reuben would never forget that church fire, but what stayed with him more was what didn't burn, the fear. It was still there, in the way people crossed the street, in the way they spoke through their teeth, in the way no one ever said the pastor's name again. Reuben Holloway could take apart an engine blindfolded by the time he was 21. Carburetors, alternators, fuel lines didn't matter. If it made noise, he could quiet it. If it coughed, he could cure it. That garage on Pine Street, it wasn't just where he worked. It's where he earned respect. White customers started asking for him by name. That colored boy in the back, he knows what he's doing, they'd say. They'd laugh, pat his shoulder like they were giving him something. He'd nod, smile, wipe his hands, and get back under the hood. He didn't care what they called him. He just wanted to be the best at something they couldn't take. For 5 years, Reuben made that place run. When the boss got sick, Reuben ran the schedule, did the orders, fixed the payroll mistakes, taught the new hires how not to kill themselves with a jack lift. That garage stayed open because of him. Then the old man died. Just didn't wake up one morning. Reuben showed up early that day, black coffee in hand, thinking he'd be next in line, thinking maybe, just maybe, hard work finally meant something. The next week, a new manager showed up, a 23-year-old white kid named Curtis, who used to hang out behind the liquor store smoking weed and wrecking trucks. He didn't know a spark plug from a cigarette, but he wore a tie, had a last name that matched the bank on Main Street. Reuben didn't get mad right away. He asked, calm, straightforward, I've been here the longest. I know this shop inside out. Why him? Curtis laughed like it was a joke. Then the owner's son, the one who inherited the place, said the word slow. Like Reuben was hard of hearing. You're a good hand, Reuben, but the front office needs someone who looks like he runs the place. That's when it sunk in. Didn't matter how good he was. Didn't matter that the customers knew him, trusted him, wouldn't even let Curtis touch their cars. Didn't matter that he was the one fixing Curtis's screw-ups every damn day. He didn't look like he ran the place. That night, Reuben didn't sleep. He lay in bed, watching the ceiling fan spin slow, thinking about his grandfather's rifle. Not because he wanted to use it, just because he finally understood why it was still there. The next morning, he left the keys on the desk and walked out. Nobody stopped him. For a while, he did under the table work in people's yards, under trees, in gravel driveways. Folks who couldn't afford the garage came to him. Word spread, but the same pattern followed him everywhere he went. He was too black to lead, too skilled to fire, always doing twice the work for half the pay. He fixed tractors for white farmers who wouldn't let him use their bathroom. He tuned up police cruisers for men who wouldn't look him in the eye. He changed brakes for men who still called him boy while handing him a check. One night, sitting alone with a bottle of cheap whiskey and grease under his nails, Reuben made a decision. He took every dollar he had, bought a patch of land off the back roads, and built his own garage. 4 walls, dirt floor, tin roof, no sign, no ad in the paper, just word of mouth. They called it the Holloway Spot. No front office, no uniform shirts, just him, some tools, and a growing list of people tired of being judged before they even parked the car. Reuben never got rich. He never got awards, but he got something else control. And in a town like that, that was a form of freedom. But don't mistake it. He wasn't free. He was just outside the reach of white comfort, still had to watch his tone, still had to keep his hands visible when the sheriff drove by slow, still had to send his younger cousin to pick up parts from the shops that didn't do business. With his kind dot, this is Injustice Brown, and I'm Mark Joie. If you've ever been passed over, talked down to, told to wait your turn while someone less worthy walks right in, you already know the sting Reuben felt. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit subscribe if you see what's really happening in these stories they never print in textbooks. Reuben never got the job they owed him. He took what little he had and carved out a space just big enough to breathe. But even in that space, he carried the weight, because in America, sometimes the hardest part ain't being poor. It's being excellent and still not being enough for the people holding the keys. Elijah Holloway was born with soft hands and sharp eyes, while Reuben was under hoods, elbows deep in oil and heat. Elijah was on the porch with a book to big. For his age, lips moving slow over every line like the words were gold. By the time he was 10, the boy had read every book in the church basement, twice. Reuben didn't understand it all, but he respected it. Elijah wasn't like him, and he didn't want him to be. That was the whole point. He used to watch Elijah walk home from school with that crooked backpack bouncing against his spine and think, maybe this one will make it out clean. Maybe the world would finally see what he saw. By 18, Elijah had a full ride to a college up north, private school, mostly white. A different world. Reuben told him, don't forget where you're from, but don't let it hold you. He didn't say the rest because it already holds me, and I don't want it to wrap around you too. Elijah hugged him tight at the bus stop, said, I'll be back. I'm gonna fix things, Dad. I'm gonna change it. Reuben just nodded. His chest swelled with pride and dread. Weeks passed, then months. Elijah sent letters at first long, excited, full of hope. Dad, you wouldn't believe the library here. They got coffee shops where people read out loud for fun. They asked me about Mississippi in class. I told them we ain't all ghosts. Reuben read every word twice, kept the letters in an old cigar box under his bed. Then, one Thursday night, the phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was cold. Practiced. Your son's been arrested. Reuben felt something in his ribs go hollow. No drugs, no violence, no crime. Just Elijah, walking through a neighborhood to white, to rich, to uncomfortable with confidence. A neighbor saw a suspicious black male with a backpack, called the police. The squad cars showed up. He didn't run, didn't raise his voice, didn't resist. Didn't matter. They took him anyway. His name hit the local paper, mugshot, front and center. No story, no apology, no follow-up, just a face and an implication. The college didn't say much, just that the situation complicated their community standards. His scholarship disappeared by Monday, quietly, like it had never existed. Reuben drove all night to get him, didn't say much at first, just handed him a warm biscuit and told him to sleep in the truck. They got home just before sunrise. Elijah didn't cry, not at first. He sat on the porch where he used to read, staring at the trees, silent, that same crooked backpack still on his shoulders. Then, like something cracked loose, he said, I did everything right, Dad. I walked how they walked, talked how they talk, wrote better papers than any of them. Reuben didn't know what to say, because that pain, that exact ache, was something he'd swallowed his whole life, and now it had found his son. He wanted to scream, to burn something. But all he did was sit next to Elijah, his hand on his back, heartbreaking under the weight of knowing he'd handed his boy to a country that still saw him as threat first, son second. This is Injustice Browning, and I'm Mark Joie. If you're listening right now, and you've ever watched someone you love get dragged backward by a world you prayed they'd outrun, you know what this is. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this if you know someone who needs to hear it. And hit subscribe because telling the truth is all we've got. That night, Reuben sat alone after Elijah went to bed, opened the old cigar box, took out the letters, held them like glass. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He cried, not loud, not long, just enough for the pain to know it had been seen. Reuben Holloway didn't fix cars anymore. The tools still hung on the wall, the smell of grease still lived in the floorboards, but the engine stayed quiet, collecting dust. Reuben didn't need to turn wrenches anymore to feel useful. He'd spent a lifetime keeping things running that were never built for him in the first place. After what happened to Elijah, something in him shifted, like a gate coming off its hinges, the kind of shift you don't walk back from. He started writing, wrote with the same hands that once rebuilt carburetors, wrote with the same silence he carried since that night his brother bled on the dirt road. Letters, dozens of them, to the local papers, the mayor, the college president, the church boards, even the sheriff's office. None of them got printed. No one wrote back, so Reuben got himself a ladder, some paint, and took his truth to the side of his garage. Big, black letters on bare wood. My son ain't a thug. He's just black in America. By sunset, everybody in town had seen it. Some slowed down as they drove past. Some didn't come back. The next week, not a single white customer showed up. No more brake jobs. No oil changes. Nothing. Reuben sat in a lawn chair outside the shop, coffee in hand, watching the road like a man who'd finally put his burden down, like someone who wasn't scared of being left behind anymore. Then something else started happening. Young black boys, some he knew, some he didn't, started showing up, not for work, not even for car trouble. They just came to sit, to breathe, to cry, quietly when it got too heavy, to say out loud what their fathers never could. They came because Reuben's wall spoke louder than any sermon in town. It told them they weren't crazy, that what they felt wasn't weakness. It was truth, and it was shared. He didn't preach, didn't tell them how to live. He just listened, and when they asked how he found the nerve to write it so big, so bold, so loud, he told them the truth. I ain't free, he said, but I'm done pretending silence ever kept me safe. He wasn't trying to change the world anymore. He tried that once, back when he thought the law might listen, back when he thought a man's skill could earn him dignity. Now, he just told his story, and somehow, that was enough, because once you tell the truth out loud, shame don't stick the same way, fear don't taste the same, and the fire that used to burn you, it starts warming your bones instead. This is Injustice Browning, and I'm Mark Joie. If this story struck something in you, if it reminded you of your father, your uncle, your own damn reflection, say something in the comments. Subscribe, stay with us, because men like Reuben don't make the history books, but they shape the soil we stand on. That fire that burned the church all those years ago, it didn't win. It passed hands. Now it lived in Reuben's voice, steady and unshaken. It lived in the boys who came to him, hoping to be seen. And it lived on the wall of a quiet garage, where a man who had nothing left to lose found the one thing they never expected him to. Take :PTGFGCMHGCGH. Elijah came back on a Wednesday. No degree, no job, just a suitcase with a broken zipper and something different behind his eyes. It wasn't defeat. Not this time. It was fire. The kind that doesn't ask permission. Reuben didn't ask where he'd been. Didn't need to. Some answers come just by looking at a man's face. You see the road. You see the wounds. They stood in the garage for a long while, not saying much, just breathing in the smell of rust and oil and years. Then Reuben turned, walked to the back, opened an old cedar box covered in dust and fingerprints, reached in, slow, pulled out a shirt. It was stiff with time, faded, blood stained across the front like a scream frozen in fabric. David's shirt. Reuben never washed it, never burned it, like their mama had asked him to. He kept it, carried it, let it live in the dark, where silence used to grow. He handed it to Elijah, who took it with both hands like it might crack apart. For a long time, neither of them said a word. Then Elijah stepped forward, found a nail on the inside wall of the garage right next to the words Reuben had painted years ago, and hung the shirt there. Didn't frame it, didn't cover it, just let it be seen. People started coming by again, same way they always had, slow, unsure. Some stopped and stared, some turned away angry, some cried and didn't know why. No one asked questions. Reuben didn't offer answers. He just nodded, steady, and said, "We don't throw truth away here. We wear it. We carry it. We pass it on." Elijah smiled, not wide, not loud, just enough. The garage never got fancy, never made the news, but it changed. It became something more than a place to fix broken things. It became a place to remember. This is Injustice Brown, and I'm Mark Joie. Some stories don't end with a headline or a courtroom win. Some stories end with two men sitting side by side, no words left between them, just memory, just truth, just the fire still burning. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe if you believe memory matters. If you believe pain can teach and legacy can heal, because silence didn't protect them, but the truth that might. Reuben never got justice in the way folks like to package it. Neither did David or Elijah, but Reuben got to see his son come back, not broken, but burning. He got to see the shirt they tried to erase hung up like a flag, and he got to sit in the same chair, drink the same coffee, and know that even if the world didn't change fast enough, they did.